When I first posted 5 things bonsai can teach us about branding sometime last year, I honestly wasn't sure how it would land. It was just me rambling on about 2 things I spend entirely too much time thinking about: the discipline of shaping a tree and the art of shaping a brand. The response was more than I expected. Folks reached out. Some were designers, some were brand strategists, some were just fellow bonsai nerds. But what connected us wasn't just the subject. It was the idea that beauty, discipline, and meaning can live quietly at the edges of everything. That branding, at its best, is more like gardening than it is like advertising. That video sparked conversations I'm still having a year later. And in the time since, I've been thinking even more deeply about it, sitting with the metaphor, working with the trees, building brands, and letting the lessons surface naturally. Today, I want to share 5 more lessons bonsai has taught me about branding. These are quieter, a little harder to put into bullet points, but I think they're worth sitting with. But before we go into these, would you mind hitting that subscribe button? Appreciate it. Okay, here we go. Lesson 1. Choose the right pot. Branding doesn't start with color palettes or typography. It starts with containment, with choosing the vessel that will hold the thing you're trying to grow. In bonsai, the pot is not an afterthought. It's a crucial design decision. The wrong pot can make a tree look awkward, unstable, or unfinished. But the right one, it's almost invisible. It disappears into the story the tree is telling. Scale, proportion, texture, all of it matters. A delicate flowering tree might sit in an unglazed clay tray to give it gravity. A thick, masculine pine tree needs a low, heavy pot to feel grounded. The pot doesn't compete with the tree, it supports it, quietly. Now think about branding. You've probably seen companies with good ideas trapped inside bad design, or a strong product saddled with an off-brand website, or a startup trying to scale using a visual identity that looks like a Canva template from 2013. That's a tree in the wrong pot. It doesn't matter how brilliant the roots are, the whole thing just feels off. Your logo, your packaging, your pitch deck, your brand voice, these aren't the brand itself. They're just the container. But if you don't choose the container with intention, you risk stunting your own growth. And here's the tricky part. The right pot will change over time. As a bonsai matures, it might need to be repotted. It's the same tree, the same essence, but a new container that better reflects its shape, age, or direction. Brands need the same kind of freedom. A visual identity that fit you perfectly 5 years ago might now feel tight and outdated. That's not failure. That's growth. So before you try to go viral or scale your startup or slap together a new logo, you need to ask yourself, what kind of container does my brand need right now? Because if you get the pot wrong, nothing else grows quite right. Lesson 2. Scar tissue adds character. In bonsai, perfection is not the goal. Beauty is. And beauty often comes from imperfection. Some of the most attractive bonsai trees in the world have been harvested from nature. And to some of them, nature has not been kind. Lightning strikes, storm damage, or careless injuries scar them. But these trees don't hide their injuries. They heal around them. Over years, decades. And their scars become part of the design over time. A twist in the trunk where it once snapped. a hollow where a branch used to be, a ridge of old callus where bark peeled away. In bonsai, that's called shari or jin, deadwood deliberately exposed, not removed, not concealed, embraced. It shows that the tree survived, that it's lived through something. Brands should do the same. Your history, the real history, not the PR version, is part of your value. Maybe you launched too early. Maybe you had to pivot. Maybe you got something wrong. But that scar doesn't have to define you. But at the same time, it shouldn't be hidden either. Because what your audience is really looking for isn't a flawless founder or a squeaky clean mission statement. They're looking for resilience. They want to know that your brand has been through something and come out wiser. That your identity was earned, not manufactured. That your voice isn't just market tested, but battle tested. We're in a moment right now where transparency is currency. Vulnerability sells better than polish. That's not about confession for clicks. It's about integrity. If your company messed up, own it. If your journey was non-linear, tell that story. Because that's not weakness, that's your essence. Take Patagonia. They weren't always the poster child for conscious capitalism. Early on, they pushed product just like everyone else, until they realized they were contributing to the very consumer culture they claimed to challenge. That reckoning led to one of the most honest campaigns in modern branding history. A full-page New York Times ad that read, "Don't buy this jacket." It was more than a tagline. It was a public acknowledgement that even sustainable products have impact, and an invitation to buy less. That vulnerability earned them more trust than any polished ad ever could. Scars don't ruin the design. They are the design. And in the right hands, they become the most unforgettable part. Lesson 3. Growth requires restraint. Left alone, a tree will grow however it wants, reaching toward light, stretching in all directions, following instinct instead of intention. And that's beautiful in nature, but in bonsai, that's chaos. Let's look at Airbnb. In the early days, they tried to be everything, a marketplace for couches, spare rooms, even experiences. But the brand started to fray, so they pulled back. They refocused. Instead of expanding endlessly, they honed in on one simple idea: belong anywhere. That became the pruning cut. The design, the UX, even the controversial rebrand, all of it grew from that one branch. That discipline helped Airbnb feel cohesive, not chaotic. And it's what allowed them to scale with intention instead of limitless freedom. A bonsai master doesn't let the tree grow unchecked. They prune, not to limit life, but to shape it. Every cut is a decision. Every branch that stays must earn its place. The tree becomes a kind of living sculpture, not because it was told what to be, but because someone cared enough to guide it. Branding is no different. Left to grow without discipline, brands get messy. They add new products that don't fit. They launch side projects that dilute their core story. Their messaging becomes bloated. Their design becomes inconsistent. And over time, the original shape, the one that made them special, gets lost under all that noise. Growth is good, but not all growth is healthy. Restraint is a creative act. Knowing what not to say, what not to make, what not to pursue, that's where clarity comes from. You can't stand for something if you're constantly shifting shape. You can't build trust if you're always reinventing yourself for whoever's watching. The best brands, like the best bonsai, feel inevitable. As if they've always looked like that. As if there's no part that doesn't belong. But that illusion of effortlessness takes work. Quiet, ruthless, disciplined work. Cutting back, simplifying, waiting, trusting that less will become more. Because, just like in bonsai, it's not the volume of branches that makes the tree beautiful. It's the space between them. Lesson 4. Seasonality matters. A bonsai doesn't bloom on demand. There are seasons. Seasons of flourish, seasons of rest, seasons where nothing seems to happen on the surface, but everything is happening underground. The tree isn't failing, it's following its rhythm. It's letting the cycle do its work. Consider Supreme. They don't just release products, they drop them. In tightly controlled seasons with planned scarcity and complete silence in between. That rhythm is part of the brand. The off-seasons build anticipation. The quiet periods create space for the product to matter when it finally arrives. Supreme doesn't chase relevance year-round. They built a cult following by treating attention like a resource, not an entitlement. Brand builders forget this. We treat momentum like it's permanent, like a brand must always be growing, scaling, launching, posting, selling. We fear dormancy. We label stillness as stagnation. But in doing so, we mistake activity for health and exhaust ourselves in the process. Seasonality is not a setback, it's a strategy. Think of the brands that build anticipation by stepping away, the artists who disappear between albums, the companies that don't post for months, but then drop something iconic when they return. They're not lazy, they're deliberate. They understand what winter is for. There are seasons when your brand will be loud, launching a new product, entering a new market, reintroducing itself to the world. And there are seasons when the work is quiet, refining the offer, refreshing the strategy, rethinking the why. Resist the urge to perform year-round bloom. Even trees that flower in winter need time to recover. So let your brand breathe. Let it rest. Let it come back stronger, because the audience that matters, the one who sees your work for what it is and not just what it produces, they'll wait for spring. Just give them something worth blooming for. Lesson 5. Not everyone will get it. You show someone a bonsai tree, 100-year-old pine shaped by generations of hands, and they say, "Why not just plant it in the ground?" They're not wrong, they're just not right either. Because to them, bonsai is a miniature tree. But to you, and maybe to a few others, it's something else. A conversation with time, a sculpture that lives, a meditation in moss and bark. You see the design, the restraint, the patience, and they see a small tree. That's branding. You can do everything right, craft the story, hone the voice, build a brand with layers and integrity and depth, and someone will still scroll past it. Someone will shrug, or scoff, or say it's too much, or not enough, or weird. And that's fine, because your brand doesn't need to speak to everyone. In fact, it shouldn't. The moment you try to be universally understood, you flatten everything that makes you distinct. The edges get sanded off, the colors get safer, the copy gets watered down. You become easy to digest and easy to forget. Take liquid death. On paper, it's just canned water. But the brand doesn't play it safe. It leans into heavy metal aesthetics, irreverent humor, and over-the-top marketing that makes a lot of people say, "What the hell is this?" And that's the point. They know it's not for everyone. But for the people it is for, it's a full-blown cult brand. And the ones who don't get it, well, they were never the audience in the first place. Bonsai is not built for mass appeal. Neither is your brand. It's built for the ones who notice the subtle curvature of a trunk, who feel something when they see how a branch curves into silence, who understand what it took to get here, the cuts, the setbacks, the years. Your audience is smaller than you think. But if you build with care, it's deeper than you can imagine. Bonsai is slow. Brand building should be too. Not in terms of execution, because deadlines are real, but in the mindset behind the work. It's easy to rush, to chase trends, to fill every frame with something louder, faster, shinier. But real design, the kind that holds up, the kind that feels inevitable, takes time. Time to prune, time to shape, to understand the story the brand is trying to tell and what parts of that story no longer serve it. So, whether you're designing a brand, leading one, or just trying to make sense of your own creative practice, take your time. Not everyone will get it, but the ones who do, they're the ones you were building it for anyway. If this resonated with you, you'll probably enjoy the first video in this series. This one right here, 5 things Bonsai can teach us about branding. And if you're passionate about design and branding and the stories we shape through both, consider subscribing. Every design has a story, and we'd love to share more of them with you. Okay? I'll see you in the next one.